Hey, welcome back! If you're new here, this is the series where I take a look at everything the Nintendo Switch 2 has to offer since my last video. This episode is definitely a special one. The Nintendo Switch 2 is now a whole 1 year old. It really doesn't feel like it's been that long. I remember speculating about Mario Kart World, watching all the Nintendo slop channels, and consuming every piece of information about the Nintendo Switch 2 like it was yesterday. Even before then, 3 years prior, I was theorizing, watching leaks, and praying for a Switch Pro or a Switch successor of some kind. And now it's been a whole year since it came out. Crazy how time flies. But the last 6 months have been the best yet. Tons of third parties, brand new first party games, and so much more. For better or for worse, we're still getting a ton of Switch 2 editions of games. But speaking of those, Nintendo started the new year off with a 3.0 update to Animal Crossing, along with, more importantly for this video, a Switch 2 edition. It offers an enhanced resolution in docked mode and new features that take advantage of the Switch 2's quirks. These being mouse controls for a more efficient way to decorate, and a megaphone that uses the mic to talk to your villagers. And finally, quote-unquote, enhanced network stability. You can now play with 12 players simultaneously on one island. Honestly, these are some great little features to enhance the experience of newer returning players, especially for a free update. Oh, it's not free? It's $5? Yeah, this is an embarrassing amount of content for $5 real. It's not necessarily a large amount of money, but the minuscule niche features it adds sound more like a bug fix than a full DLC. It's not the worst Switch 2 edition, I suppose. It basically has the same amount of content as Jamboree TV, but for a fourth of the price. But this just baffles me. You were already releasing a huge update for your game, and you couldn't care to include these little quality improvements for Switch 2 users? And the frame rate is still the same. How is this a Switch 2 edition? Yeah, not a great start to this year. However, in the last week of February, Nintendo hosted a Direct centralized entirely around Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. Just like Kirby Air Riders, this Direct really sold me on the game. I never really understood what Tomodachi Life was about because it is so expensive for the original and I never got to play it, but this Direct showed me that this is exactly the kind of game I would love to screw around in. Sadly, this game doesn't release until April, and I know it's a Switch 1 game, but I'm still covering it because it's an important release in Nintendo's schedule and not just a remaster of 2 Wii games for $70. Not much on the first party front this month, but as for third-party support, this month we had some major titles like Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade, a new Dynasty Warriors, and Dispatch, which was weirdly censored on Switch 2. There was a free patch that got released like a day after I recorded this that adds back some of the nudity. So yeah, it's not entirely censored anymore, but they still censored all the penis. From what I've read, it's to appease the Japanese rating board because games like Cyberpunk were censored over there while staying intact in the West. And I guess they didn't want to make 2 versions similar to Cyberpunk. And Nintendo Switch Online got nothing this month, surprisingly. And January overall was a pretty nonchalant month with not much happening. Seems like this is a recovery month for many game companies after a huge holiday season. In previous years, Nintendo released a remaster of Donkey Kong Country Returns, and the year before a remaster of Trace Memory and another Code R. They never released anything major. Luckily, in the months to come, we got a lot more activity. Ooh, what's this? A Nintendo Direct leak? I hope they announce it, dang it. At the beginning of February, Nintendo announced a partner showcase would occur on the 5th. When that date came, my expectations were comically low, but even then, Nintendo still managed to go lower. This Direct really did not cover any major new games. Instead, it was a whole lot of ports. Fallout 4, Indiana Jones, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Resident Evil Requiem, Oblivion Remastered, there were too many. Knowing them, these games are all going to be released on key cards and sell like Dookie. So a little bit in the future here, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is actually fully on the cartridge. Great job, Bethesda. Although you did release Fallout 4 on a code in the box, not even a key card, so I guess this balances it out. Mario Tennis Fever was a game I was not really expecting at all. For one, this is a Nintendo home console that got a Mario Tennis game before even a 3D or 2D Mario game. And second, I was really hoping that Nintendo would do something else for a new Mario sports game. When I was watching the Direct last September, contrary to what I was saying out loud, oh my god, it's Mario Tennis! In my brain, I was thinking, well, like, what about baseball, huh? I really thought the next sports game they would make would have been like baseball or a good strikers game, but tennis is fine, I guess. When this game actually came out and I played it, I had really no expectations because I haven't noticed a difference in gameplay with the past entries since Power Tennis. So I was thinking it was going to be just another tennis game, and you know, I was kind of right. This is a fine game. However, it's just tennis. The controls feel responsive and it looks pretty nice too, even if some moments in Aces look better and half the animations are the same. I was surprised because this is the first Mario sports game I've played that I can actually feel a difference in the characters. Like the heavyweights were always very different, but lightweights or midweights felt the same. However, in this game, when I'm playing as the different characters, characters, it really did feel different between the weight classes. It's a small feature because I'm just gonna play as Yoshi the whole time anyway, but I digress. The tennis gameplay is what you'd expect. Very standard, hitting the ball back and forth with all the different shots you'd expect. But what differentiates this Mario Tennis game from the rest is the fever rackets. The fever rackets create special effects that add obstacles to your course. If you fill up your fever bar, then you can do a fever shot, which will have the essence of the racket you choose. The effect doesn't actually activate until it hits the court. It's a neat way to switch up the gameplay, but holy cow, they are unbalanced. The ice racket just makes a little ice patch that never affected me, while the mud racket makes a giant patch of mud that basically makes the other side win. You slow down and the ball slows down, which with a cleverly placed spot, you can cover most of the area you'd hit into. Luckily, they only last for like 2 sets, so it doesn't really affect the whole match. The gameplay may be good, but what does Nintendo give you to actually play tennis? You get your standard singles and doubles matches, tournament mode, and motion controls, which is odd. They didn't just make that a setting. But there's a new unique story mode where Mario and his friends turn into babies. I don't know, man. I didn't play it. Then there's Trial Towers, which is a tower of back-to-back challenges with special effects that vary from floor to floor. It's really fun, especially in doubles, because you absolutely decimate everything. It is clear this was only designed for singles. And finally, there's the mix-it-up matches. You can either select special or score challenges, which both contain different things. The special matches are matches that can have a central gimmick that makes up the gameplay. There's Ring Shot, where you have to hit the ball through as many rings as possible within the time limit. Moderately fun, I guess. Forest Court Match has a piranha that sticks out of the ground every now and then looking for the ball. If you hit a ball in its mouth, it will spit it out on the other side. It's pointless. It basically just does a shot for you. Pinball Match, where there's bumpers that show up sometimes. I'm not actually sure how they're triggered. Also not very fun or engaging. But Racket Factory sees different kinds of rackets falling from the sky, which you can pick up. This is actually pretty fun, especially in doubles. It adds just the right amount of variability. And finally, the Wonder Court Match, which has wonder flowers that trigger events. Cool, I guess, but it only showed up once in a match. The rest of it is just playing normal tennis. Also, I have no clue what's going on in this Wonder Effect. As for the score challenges, these are just extras that should have been selectable options on the other tab. 2 and 4 player co-op Ring Shot, the Piranha Plant game, but he comes out of pipes at the back of the court now, and a training mode with a robotic Piranha Plant. So in conclusion, this menu is very deceiving. Swing mode could have just been a setting in the other modes, and Mix It Up has a few repeat games in there that could also be a setting. But overall, as a $70 package, I don't think it's justifiable. Tennis is just not a game that deserves a price like that. The extra modes are cute, but don't keep you hooked for long. This is like a $40 to $50 game at the very most. It's just padded with random crap to seem like there's a ton of content. Funnily enough, the theory is that the atrocious sales of this game in particular was the reason Nintendo changed the prices of their digital AA games. So it's obvious that they learned in some way you can't pull this kind of scammery stuff on an unproven piece of hardware. Less than a week after Mario Tennis Fever hit shelves, we got one of Nintendo's strangest releases of the last few years, the Virtual Boy catalog on Nintendo Switch Online. I really thought Nintendo would never want to touch this thing with a 6-foot pole, but here we are. Alongside the release of the app, they released a full 1-to-1 replica of the Virtual Boy that you can put your Switch into. This thing is actually so cool. It has the same look and feel of an actual real unit, which I will never own because, oh my god. But I did get to play Jack Brothers on one at a convention a while back, and it felt pretty much the same as this new one. Is it $100 worth? That's a tough question. Like, it looks really cool, and there's a decent bit here compared to the other controllers, but like, there's no electronics or anything. If it had a replica controller bundled with it, then yeah, it'd be worth it. But as it stands, this is just a plastic Switch shell. But it is a really cool shell for sitting on my shelf. However, they did release a cardboard model, which is only $30. But if you want to play it, why not get the expensive one to experience it authentically or just play it on your TV? Oh. The accessory is required for this app, which is stupid! You're telling me you couldn't have had a separate TV mode for this thing? The fan emulators can do it just fine, why can't you, Nintendo? This limitation makes it hard to record, so I guess I'm emulating the gameplay footage. So the home screen is like your normal Switch Online shtick, except it's square now? Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. It launched with 7 games. Red Alarm, 3D Tetris, Teleroboxer, Golf, Galactic Pinball, Virtual Boy Wario Land, and this Japanese game I don't know the name of. To save time, I will review all these games in one sentence. Golf is golf. Galactic Pinball is pinball. 3D Tetris is really confusing. Red Alarm is just a mess of pixels. Teleroboxer has surprisingly good 3D and it's actually pretty fun. Virtual Boy Wario Land is actually fantastic, and the Japanese Mansion game is definitely interesting for the platform and the time period it came out in. The VR effect in-game looks very convincing as a guy who never experienced Switch VR before. I was shocked at how well the 3D from a 25-year-old console looked. I think it actually improves most of the games released here. Enough to crane your neck to play them? Heck no, but it was a good use of the tech. Way better use used than the Wii U gamepad. Overall, the Virtual Boy Switch Online being an $80 minimum experience is a bit much for the content on offer. There's a reason this console failed. But the plastic accessory is actually a pretty cool replica, and it's nice to finally have an option to play VR games on Switch 2. After Mario Tennis, we really didn't know what Nintendo would be up to this year, which is why a leak from a leaker spread like wildfire. He claimed that there would be a general direct in the third week of February that contained the next 3D Mario game. This was a massive claim which made me wary of such a rumor being true. And in the end, there is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there was no direct in the third week of February. But this week was not free from announcements. On Thursday, they shadow dropped a trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. Cool. I mean, it's Xenoblade. What more do you want me to say? They're RPGs that don't really interest me. The upgrade pack is $5 for some reason. It only adds higher frame rates and higher resolutions. Personally, I think that should be a free upgrade. Heck, it was a free upgrade for a few games when the Switch 2 launched. But $5 is not egregious, especially considering the uplift in frame rate makes these games look fantastic. Just like I said with the Animal Crossing pack, this should have been an update, but I'll accept that it'll never happen with this company going forward. But shortly after this announcement, someone over at the Pokemon company goofed and put up Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green on the eShop before being announced. I'm assuming this was supposed to be announced at the Pokemon Presents that was set for a few weeks later, and someone just published it by accident. But anyway, they're emulated ROMs of GBA games for $20 each. I do not like this price point. $20 for both of them would make a lot more sense considering they're over 20-year-old games with no changes. Heck, they should have just put them on Switch Online, but we can't have nice things. But people will still pay for them, and I guess they're a lot cheaper than tracking down real copies. More expensive than pirating though. And speaking of Pokemon, there was a Pokemon Presents on the 27th that announced a few things, like these cool Game Boys that change the song based on the cartridge you put in, and Pokemon Champions, stuff for the mobile games, and more importantly, real video games. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is going on the GameCube Switch Online app, and Pokemon Generation 10 is coming out in 2027 with Pokemon Winds and Waves. The trailer for these games all looks surprisingly good. However, we also had the same thing with Pokemon ZA, and that turned out to be really mid. We'll have to wait and see, but hopefully this longer development cycle will lead to a better final product. As for third parties this month, we saw some big names like Dragon Quest, Resident Evil Requiem, and Reanimal. Yeah, man, that's all I got. But Nintendo Switch Online got Balloon Kid and Yoshi for Game Boy. You can't have Game Boy without Balloon Kid and Yoshi. We started this month on definitely a note. Nintendo hosted an Indie World showcase on the 3rd that might be one of the most dry showcases from Nintendo ever. It was only 15 minutes long. Most of the games didn't really leave a lasting impact on me except for the Patapon sequel thing at the end and the Tony Hawk bus game at the start. The rest of the games blended together in my brain, and it's only been 2 hours at the time of writing this. But skimming back over it, they seem pretty alright. None of them appeal to me, but maybe they do to other people. Literally the same day as the Indie World showcase, Nintendo dropped a trailer for some Mario games heading to Nintendo Switch Online on March 10th, or Mario Day. These were Mario vs. Donkey Kong on GBA, as well as Mario Tennis and Mario Clash for the Virtual Boy. So let's check them out. Mario vs. Donkey Kong is a pretty good game. The level design focuses around doing various puzzles with keys and buttons and whatnot. I am a bit surprised that they put the GBA version on Switch Online, considering that they did release a remake of this a few years back. Knowing Nintendo, they would probably just want you to buy the remake, but this is definitely a change in character I can get behind. But the more intriguing games are Mario Clash and Mario's Tennis, both for the Virtual Boy. I think these games should not have been withheld for so long, because in my opinion, they have the best looking 3D effects out of any of the other games. When this service first launched, I was not impressed by most of the library besides Virtual Boy Wario Land and Tellero Boxer. Maybe it's just my eyes, but the other games really just didn't have meaningful 3D elements. However, after Mario's Tennis, I can fully understand why it was bundled with the system. The 3D actually adds meaningful depth to the court, which actually improves a pixelated sports game like this. Many tennis games from this era looked like this, so it actually provides a purpose to this being a Virtual Boy game. It fulfills the purpose of a pack-in game. It demonstrates how the system can improve over games before it and what it can accomplish overall. But I digress. Mario Clash is another impressive showing of the 3D effect, and it actually hooked me for a little while. It's surprisingly fun. Overall, pretty good update considering that the past updates were just throwaway NES games that no one will ever play. Pokemon Pokopia is a game I didn't want to like. It was a $70 keycard game from Nintendo themselves, and Pokemon was never a game that hooked me, and I wasn't even planning on buying this, even for the video. But then one day, slightly before the release date, all of the reviews went out on Metacritic, and it was the highest rated Pokemon game ever. After seeing that and watching a few reviews, I knew what I had to do. I rushed to GameStop, I asked if they had it in stock. One copy left. perfect. I purchased it and I went home. I plopped my bottom down on my couch and jumped in, and when I played, defied my expectations. So Pokopia follows a Ditto thousands of years after something happened that left everything on this island in ruins. You control the Ditto in the form of this slightly creepy human character, and it is your job to restore this island to its former glory, while also recovering all the Pokemon so that maybe the humans will come back. Assisting you is Professor Tangrowth because he knows everything apparently. This setup is actually a pretty interesting premise for a Pokemon game of all things, and I actually think they nailed it. Your gameplay loop is simple. You create habitats to attract new Pokemon, keep these Pokemon happy in their new homes, and rebuild the island. I'm not usually the type to enjoy this style of cozy, relaxed game, but surprisingly it hooked me for a decent while. I really enjoyed rebuilding the island and habitats. Slowly chipping away at making this long dead island look pretty again was quite satisfying. I really don't know what more to say. Building and destroying was a fun time, and unlocking little tidbits about what happened to this region along the way is a neat way to uncover the story, but I'm sorry, I really just wasn't paying attention. I just really don't know what meaningful thoughts I can add to this game. But all in all, it's a great game that if you own a Switch 2, you really should just play to understand what I mean. Later in March, Nintendo Switch 2 firmware update 22.00 dropped with a pretty important feature. There were some smaller things like the ability to add notes to your friends and breakdowns of what is taking up so much storage space in the settings, and off topic for a second, thank you Nintendo so much, I needed this. But the main focus of this update that got all the headlines was a feature called Handheld Boost Mode. By enabling this feature, Nintendo Switch 1 games played on Switch 2 will now run at docked mode performance and resolutions in handheld mode. We needed this from launch, man. This makes games look so much sharper in handheld, which I didn't notice in gameplay all too much, but up close, it definitely looks way better. Nintendo did the best worst move possible by releasing a demo of Tomodachi Life Living the Dream a day before Mario Wonder's Nintendo Switch 2 edition came out. I say this is the best worst thing to happen because, on one hand, seeing people make hyper-realistic Miis and remake their own characters in the game was a magical time to scroll the Bane of My Existence app. But on the other hand, it made everyone who was already excited for this game 11,000 times more annoying. I mean, like, Steel Ball Run fans kind of annoying. Me personally, I was excited for this game because of the Mii Maker and the Mii Maker alone. The fact you can draw on the characters' faces made character making even more fun. I put my two characters in the game a few days after it came out and it was a pretty great time. I'll go more in depth with my thoughts when the game actually releases next month. So the Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition is yet another Switch 2 upgrade of a game I enjoyed on Switch 1. But with previous expansions like Kirby and Mario Party, I was left severely disappointed. They just did not have enough content to warrant a $20 price tag. But this trend changes with Meetup in Bellabelle Park. There might finally be enough content in this game to warrant the upcharge in my opinion. So let's get into it. The main area, Bellabelle Park, is your hub for all the new content. It seems the main focus of the single player content is the return of the Koopalings. They've stolen the bells from the park and it is your job to get them back by completing 7 mini stages that end with a battle with the Koopalings, but with a twist. All of them have some kind of wonder effect that shakes up the gameplay. These bosses, while rather easy, are super fun and entertaining. They bring back that same artistry from the base game, and they fit in rather well with said base game. But it is only 7 levels, which can be completed in about an hour or two. It's a shame that it's over so quickly. I would have loved another 2 or 3 worlds to play. But thankfully, that's not all that was added. You can now join the Toad Brigade camp. Sounds fancy, but this is really just the mission mode from New Super Mario Bros. U all over again. This is probably my favorite part of the package. I think I might be one of the only freaks who actually really enjoyed the mission mode in the previous game. Might be the best thing about New Super Mario Bros. U, to be honest, but I digress. These new challenges are fun to do one after another, with a few being surprisingly challenging. They all reward you with the special currency in this expansion, Bellabelle Water. This water is how you make plants sprout, which we'll get into later. But for now, onto the attractions of Bellabelle Park. These minigames all pretty much have the same value as a Mario Party minigame. They don't provide any lasting entertainment value, you just play some of them if you want to do something with friends. None of them really stood out except for that tag one, which we actually wanted to play more than once, but even then, it's tag. It's not the deepest game ever. Yeah, safe to say these are just filler. I really don't feel the need to play these ever again, which is a shame because of how much Nintendo hyped up this part of the game during all the trailers. But this park is also the source of my actual biggest dislike. Remember the water from earlier? You can use this to grow plants of various things like band instruments to complete the Toad Band, new emotes for some reason, new combined badges which are actually really cool and a great addition, and finally, flowers. Now why might this be a bad thing, you ask? These stupid flowers are required for 100% completion. To get one of the medals on the title screen, you have to collect and buy every single flower decoration in this park. Flower arches, boxes, fields, and many more can be purchased using specific combinations of flowers. Only problem is you need every single one of these decorations to 100%, which is just super unnecessary and incredibly boring. The loop is pretty much play challenges to get water, grow plants, and hope you get the flowers you need to buy the next decoration. Rinse, and repeat. My lord, this is a horrific requirement because of how some flowers are really hard to come by. I hate it. It's ridiculous. Maybe it's just because I want my 100% back, but this is one of those grinds that is just completely unrewarding in the end. Like, flower bushes is all you get out of this. Anyway, sorry for my rant. This is everything the DLC has to offer. Overall, at the $20 price point, it's not going to be worth it for like 70% of people. It's a great supplement to Mario Wonder that I myself got my money's worth from. For sure, it is the most feature-rich Switch 2 upgrade yet, but we're just not at that $20 point being worth it yet, man. This month, we got a few big third-party games like Scott Pilgrim EX, Monster Hunter Stories 3, and Sonic Racing Crossroads getting a Switch 2 upgrade, the latter two getting physical releases. Right before the release of Tomodachi Life this month, Nintendo Shadow dropped a trailer for Rhythm Heaven Groove, and all I have to say is, oh my god, finally. I was definitely in the crowd that was way more excited for Rhythm Heaven than Tomodachi Life, and it's great to finally get more news on it. Fever on the Wii is one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm glad Nintendo is mentioning this series again. It's set to release on July 2nd for $40? I'm surprised Nintendo even considered making a game less than $50, especially one a part of their major release schedule. Since it comes out in July, it won't be included in this video, but don't you worry, I will definitely be making a separate video on this game. Ah yes, after almost 13 years, a sequel to Tomodachi Life was released this month. Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream. Yet again, this was a series that I never played because the first game costs how much? But I was excited to play it for one specific reason, the Mii Maker. This was the main draw for me, especially the ability to draw basically anything on a character and then make it walk around and mingle with your other freaks of nature. I was more excited than usual to go buy this game because I had so many ideas for characters. Now that I have this game in my hands, I'm just realizing it's so much greater than I ever could have expected. The idea of making Miis and just letting them interact sounded kind of boring, like watching a box of ants. But it's actually hilarious because you can customize what they talk about. From making characters talk like their real-life counterparts to bombing Iran, these conversations can actually be hilarious sometimes. And on the topic of those characters, the Mii Maker is fantastic. There's so many more options now. There's front and back hair combos, eye bags, more wrinkles, eye shines, more things can be moved around, and so much more. And the drawing part wasn't actually as useful as I thought in the long run. It makes a mask kind of in front of the character, which looks a bit odd. But for the details, it was very helpful to add that extra layer of depth. Now the Miis you create all get put onto this island that you have full control of changing and editing to your liking. I definitely was not expecting to be able to build and decorate my island. And not only can you customize your island and characters, you can customize what they consume. Of course, you have your basic clothing and food stores, but then there's also the creator shop where you can create your own t-shirts, hats, pets, and even food. More customization like this makes an already crazy game even more chaotic. And that's pretty much the game. An island that you create swarmed with your own creations, wearing and eating your own creations while living in your own creations. You can really make this game your own. This is a definite pickup for anyone wanting a silly game you can laugh at. Only 5 days after Tomodachi Life, Nintendo yet again shadow dropped a trailer, but this time, it's a lot bigger than Rhythm Heaven. Splatoon Raiders, first revealed from a cryptic trailer a few months after the Switch 2's launch, got a full trailer showing gameplay, new features, the story, the works. From the trailers, it looks like a single-player story-focused Splatoon game, and just from the gameplay, it looks great. It looks really fun to bash through hordes of enemies, kind of like another game for the Switch 2. Isn't it funny how Nintendo keeps making games about islands this year? Animal Crossing, Tomodachi Life, and now Splatoon. Is something actually in the water over there in Japan? It releases in July for $50 digitally. Man, something must be in the water for them to reveal 2 games in the same month in 2026 for under $60. I like the direction we're taking. Switch Online got Pac-Man. Yeah, April was pretty slow. At least we got Mouse PI for Hire and Pragmata. Luckily, May is more eventful. May started a little slow with no real news until the 6th, when Nintendo did the unthinkable. They announced a direct 10 minutes in advance for a new Star Fox game? I mean, when the leaker said there was going to be a new Star Fox, I didn't actually believe that, but now that it's in front of my eyes, I'm not sure what to think. So this is being posed as the grand reboot for the franchise after the last game, Star Fox Zero, also tried to reboot the series. Good lord. What we have here is not a new Star Fox game. Don't get it twisted. This is a remake of Star Fox 64, a game which has gotten 2 other remakes before and is pretty much the same story as the first Star Fox. I feel like Nintendo has no idea what to do with this series and is just doing what they already know works again and again. It's a bit underwhelming, but hey, there's new character designs. This was the main point of contention between fans of the series. Are they good or nah? As a person who hasn't really gotten into Star Fox before, they were a bit weird when I first saw them, but honestly, after about a week since reveal, they're starting to grow on me. I definitely think it's interesting that they're giving Fox and Falco more animal-like features. I'll go more in depth on this game when it actually releases, but for now, I actually like these designs, and I hope this this remake propels Nintendo to bring back some of their older series. However, in the midst of the Star Fox announcement and debating, we got a bombshell dropped on us. The Switch 2 is getting a price increase. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of us expected this, but now here in North America, the base model Switch 2 costs $50 more, at $500, which all things considered isn't too horrible. I mean, obviously it is a crazy amount of money, but after considering the circumstances that the tech industry is going through, not too bad. Especially after Sony's price hikes, like, good lord. But hey, they also announced a few days later that you can get a choice of Pokemon Pokopia, Mario Kart World, or Donkey Kong Bonanza with the purchase of a Switch 2 for some amount of time. So somehow, someway, the Mario Kart World bundle returned. The only thing I'm concerned about is the price hikes on Switch Online in Japan, which could transfer over, but I'm just gonna hold my tongue and hope that doesn't happen. So apparently they announced Fitness Boxing 3 Nintendo Switch 2 edition on the 7th. I actually heard nothing about this. It might have been on their Twitter or something, but I didn't even hear about it until like 2 weeks after it was announced. What did they add? Who knows? I don't care. I mean, what else really happened? They announced they were dropping the My from the My Nintendo store with a 3-week notice compared to the 10 minutes we got for Star Fox, and their stock price dropped 12% on the same day. Is there anything before Yoshi? Yes! Yes, there is! Randomly on the 13th of May, they shadow dropped a trailer for new Virtual Boy games yet again. V-Tetris, Jack Bros, Space Invaders Virtual Collection, Virtual Bowling, and Vertical Force. Not a bad lineup, but are they good Virtual Boy games? Let's play and find out real quick. Most of these I have very little to say about. V-Tetris is just Tetris. Jack Bros is actually a great game. Virtual Bowling is straight dog. Space Invaders is literally just Space Invaders from a different perspective. And Vertical Force is your basic arcade shoot 'em up with pretty okay 3D effects. The highlight from this drop is most definitely Jack Bros. It's actually super fun. However, the rest of the games are just disappointed. It makes so much more sense why this console flopped now. There is not a consistently good library on this thing. To close out the month of May, we got Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, a game that has left the biggest divide in opinions from people that I have ever seen. No one can come to a clear consensus on whether this game is really good or just okay. Guess I'll have to play it for myself to settle the debate. So this game follows Yoshi and his friends discovering this book named Mr. E following an incident with Bowser Jr. The E stands for encyclopedia, so he contains all these little creatures within his pages. The only problem is he can't see the pages because he is the cover. It is your job to now go into his pages and catalog all the creatures you discover. This is the whole premise of the game. You go in pursuit of a being you see on a chapter page in an enclosed little exploration area. I actually had a lot more fun with this than I expected. It solves a lot of the collectible problems I had with something like Crafted World. In that game, the levels are just standard 2D platforming levels, so backtracking is annoying and feels unintentional. But with this format, stages don't have a definitive end at the far right of the stage anymore. It encourages finding secrets and discovering all the things that your creature of note can do. On that subject, what do you actually do with these things? Well, when you enter a stage, you will find the creature you focused on with your magnifying glass, usually out in the open, and the game leaves it up to you to find out what attributes it has. Some may like riding on your back when you swing your tail at them, while some may just run away afraid of Yoshi. Now each level has certain set pieces like a pool of mud or fruits on a tree that the creatures can interact with to change their abilities. This is how you progress. The game wants you to experiment with every little aspect of this playground they've created for you. I actually had a lot of fun trying to find the different ways you can mess with some of these guys to get new things to happen. Some were even pretty shocking when they happened because I wasn't expecting certain things I tried to work. And that is the entire gameplay loop. Go to a page, find a creature, mess with it, collect all the data, and move on. It's not as boring as it might sound. The encounters actually vary in terms of what they do or don't do. Now, one of the biggest points of contention that I see is the difficulty. And if you were expecting a real 2D platformer like Mario Wonder here, I hate to break it to you, but this is a little baby game. Like, guy, you cannot even take damage. There is no health meter. Yoshi is invincible. Honestly, I don't mind the very low bar here because of what kind of game this is. For a game that focuses on exploration and discovery, I actually think not having enemies in your way is a benefit. And all that's left here to talk about is the visuals, which are absolutely stellar. My first reaction during the direct was that this game looked quite cheap when zoomed in on the sprites.
Right away.
Why does this game look kind of cheap though? Actually playing it now, man, this is a beautiful game. Easily the best styled Nintendo game this year. The environments have so many layers to them, and the little flourishes like Yoshi being sketched into the book when entering a level really ties the whole picture book theme together. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about this game. It's a short and easy little romp that kept me surprisingly entertained. I would not recommend this to everyone looking for a serious platformer, as this is not what this title aims to achieve. And $60 is a little absurd for a 6-hour game, so yeah, I'd only recommend this if you specifically know what you're getting into. And finally, we've reached June. On June 5th, 2026, the Switch 2 officially turned a whole year old. Yay, congratulations! And what did we get to celebrate? A Direct 4 days later. Oh boy, finally, after 8.5 months since the last one, we finally get 50 whole minutes worth of Nintendo goodness. And it was actually just okay. I mean, there was definitely some highlights, like more Rhythm Heaven gameplay, finally, actual ports of the Kingdom Hearts games instead of cloud versions, Pokopia DLC, Ocarina of Time remake or whatever, Switch Sports Resort, where they obviously didn't learn from the last game, and Deltarune Chapter 5, baby! Woohoo! Even though personally I was only interested in Rhythm Heaven and Deltarune, I don't think there was much else that anybody universally liked. Ocarina of Time is whatever, like, I don't know why we need to go through this rigmarole again. You did this on the 3DS. However, it got all the claps from the 40-year-olds in the audience who just can't let go of the past. Yes, I know you millennials are watching based on my Nostalgia Bait video comment section, and I'm not afraid to say what I just said. There was a new Xenoblade and Fire Emblem announced, and there's still niche RPGs that target a very specific group of people with their appeal. It was definitely a Direct of almost nothing earth-shattering, but things that appeal to very specific people. And I mean, don't even get me started on the Donkey Kong DLC update, where you can get Mario clothes and chests and stuff are replaced with question blocks. Like, seriously, you're acting like reskins are some groundbreaking new addition that'll boost sales? I wouldn't count on it. This was kind of a disappointment after how long the wait was and how good the other showcases from the week before were, but there was definitely something for everyone in this Direct. You know, I've been seeing a trend with Nintendo over the course of their life. They constantly repeat history, and Star Fox on the Switch 2 is no exception. I mean, we've been through this before. Nintendo puts out a successor to their wildly popular portable system. It does well out of the gate, but underperforms later on. They announce a price change and a remaster of Ocarina of Time, and then release a remake of Star Fox 64. It's astounding how they can remake the same game like 4,000 times and think it'll do good. But anyway, into the game itself, it's Star Fox 64 with better graphics. I don't know what more to say. The gameplay is as fun as ever, and the environments look fantastic on the Switch too, and there's more options for multiplayer now. It's great. However, I think we should probably address the elephant in the room. The new character designs, which, you know, they've definitely grown on me since that initial showcase. Even though these are like the most what would Star Fox look like in Unreal Engine 5 type designs, I really like the more animal type bodies. It really reminds me a lot of the Super Nintendo box art. It makes the cartoony designs in the older games look weirdly inappropriate. I like the way that the environments look and all the little details they have, and I mean, the gameplay is still as fun as ever. It's just Star Fox 64, which was already fun. And yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about it. It's what Star Fox 64 will look like in 2013. Nintendo Switch Online got nothing this month, which is a bit strange, as nothing really prevented them from adding anything this month. And the third-party games this month, we got stuff like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, The Adventures of Elliot, Deltarune Chapter 5, of course, and some other minor stuff. So in conclusion, the Nintendo Switch 2 had a great first year overall, and I think that it has a well-padded library so far with many more on the horizon. However, I do think that Nintendo needs to reveal new games and not remakes, because did we really need Star Fox and Ocarina in the same year? I'm happy to see that now third-party companies finally consider Nintendo as one of the players in the modern consoles and are porting their new games over. I hope this momentum can continue without many of the software droughts of Nintendo's past. Even if we have to put up with Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Nintendo Switch 3 Tour Nintendo Switch 2 Edition.